Alright guys, so today we're going to take some C notes on the rock cycle, so I'm going to need you to get your journals out and take very good detailed C notes. Alright, so the definition of the rock cycle is the continual process by which new rock is formed from old existing rock. We know that the Earth's crust is made up of rock, and in this we're going to learn about the three main types of rock that makes it. Now, with the Earth being over 4.5 billion years old, the rock is constantly having to recycle itself, kind of like the water cycle and the air cycle. We have a rock cycle. Each type of rock can be changed into every other type. So sedimentary can be turned into metamorphic and igneous, and vice versa. As a rock travels through the rock cycle, it is affected by many different processes. And you're going to realize just recognizing the processes is going to help you figure out what the rock will become. Rocks can be buried, melted, squeezed, and even broken down, and the rocks that surrounding them will affect how the rock changes. All right, so here's a picture of the rock cycle, and I want you to go ahead and pause the video and write this down, and I want it to be a very nice, good, detailed of the rock cycle. So if you'll notice, there are three different types of rock. You have igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary, and the rocks can change from one form to another. So like I said earlier, it's more about you practicing and looking at the processes. So notice weathering and erosion. Every time you see a green arrow, weathering and erosion is pointing to sediments, which is what happens when any rock, whether it's igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic, gets broken down and moved to a new location. When you take these sediments and you compact them and cement them together, it forms a sedimentary rock. Again, if that sedimentary rock is weathered and eroded, it can go back to sediment. So it could be a continual process between sediments and sedimentary. However, if a sedimentary rock starts to get buried deep inside the earth, we know that as we go deeper inside, the heat is going to increase, and then of course the pressure will too. If any type of rock, whether it be sedimentary or igneous, goes under extreme heat and pressure, it will become a metamorphic rock. And metamorph means to change. So this sedimentary rock that's going to look a certain way is going to change and become a new type of rock through that intense heat and pressure, which again, that metamorphic rock could weather and erode and go back to sediments. If it does remain deep inside the earth and the heat becomes too much, if the rock goes ahead and melts, then it's what we call magma. At this point, when the magma cools and hardens, it is going to form a new type of rock, which is igneous. So an igneous rock is only created from magma or lava, magma being inside the earth, lava being on the earth's surface. If the igneous rock is exposed to heat again and pressure, it can become back into a metamorphic, or if it skips that and goes straight to melting to magma, where it will cool and become an igneous again. So knowing the processes. So if I say heat and pressure, think metamorphic. If I say weathering and erosion, sediments. Compaction and cementation, sedimentary rock. Melting, igneous. So go ahead and write this down and make sure you have those processes. All right, so let's go over some of the vocabulary. These are some of the words that you had to do for me just a second ago. Uplift is where it causes areas of the Earth's crust to rise to higher elevations. Rocks move from deep inside the earth to the surface, and when rocks reach the Earth's surface, weathering and erosion begins. So weathering and erosion can only take place near the surface of the Earth's crust. So most sedimentary rocks are going to be found along the top, not deep in the bottom. You can imagine that the farther we go into the Earth's crust, the more likely we're going to find metamorphic rock. So the definition of weathering is the process by which water, ice, and wind break rocks down. So the main thing I want you to think about in weathering is the actual breaking it down, making it into smaller pieces. The definition of erosion is the process by which wind, water, and gravity move broken pieces of rock materials from one place to another. So erosion is the transportation. Weathering is the breaking down, and erosion is the movement. But make sure you write those two definitions in your journal. All right, so let's go into compaction and cementation. Compaction is kind of like it sounds, is a process where soft sediments are squeezed together until hardened into a rock. Pretend that you're on the beach and you are sticking your hand in the sand and a wave comes and you grab it and it's like all dripping, and then all of a sudden you squeeze that sand until it's really hard and all the water moves out and it forms a rock for a second, and then you can move your hand away and it's in the shape of your hand. That is compaction. Cementation is a process where water is passing through the rock and minerals inside the rock will start to dissolve in the water and kind of form a glue that help bind the sediments together, just like concrete. So when you think of cement or concrete and cement hardening, that is called cementation. Both of these processes help to form sedimentary rocks. So heating and cooling. When rocks are buried deep inside the earth, it is caused by heat and pressure. The heat cooks the rock while the pressure squeezes the rock. And this causes the rock to melt and form magma, which then when it cools will become igneous. Okay, so that's it. Go ahead and rewind the video if you need to do anything. But again, make sure you have a really good picture of that rock cycle.